Hey guys, what I'm doing now is sharpening a kitchen knife for a friend of mine. He said it just he found it in one of the old drawers at his house, and I'm going to sharpen it for him. He has been quote unquote sharpening it with ceramic, but it's a piece of ceramic that he got from work. So it's uh, got a hard edge on it, and then it's been abused pretty much. But here's some of the stuff I've been working on. These will be handled in the next few days. Kitchen knives, and I believe 3 of them are already sold. I know this one is for sure when I get it done, and then 2 of the kitchen knives. One of them for sure, but maybe 2. Anyways, back to this thing. This thing's pretty beat. Make an axe. You make an axe, Bragg Slagle. So what I'm going to do with this, he's been sharpening it with a piece of ceramic that's absolutely annihilated this blade. And I don't think it's necessarily a knife sharpening piece of ceramic. It is something that has been repurposed. And it looks like, if anybody's ever used like the carbide sharpeners for knives, that's what it looks like because it's real jagged. So I'm going to start with a 200 grit on this diamond stone, whatever it is. It's just something that I've had. Not big, not small. Like this. This is a Norland Tomahawk, a genuine Norland. I picked that up. I rehandled it and fixed the head because it looked like somebody had ground it with a bench grinder, and I can't stand people. I think they should have to go through a class to learn how to sharpen stuff or use a bench grinder or any grinder in that fact, because most of the time people just screw things up more than they're helping. But like I said, I'm going to start with a 200 grit on this thing and get the edge geometry back in shape so you can kind of see this thing's been abused over the years. He's like, it won't cut. I was like, imagine not. So we're going to get after it. So with these types of knives, because they've definitely got flex in them. It's not as flexible as a fillet knife, but it still has some flex. It is pretty thin down here on the cutting edge. So when you are sharpening, you do need to work certain areas at a time, because if you're pushing here and here, you're going to create a bow in the blade, and part of it's going to dig in and part of it's not. So I think that's one reason the Japanese style of sharpening, they really don't go the whole width of the blade at a time. They do a lot of strokes in one area as they work down. So that may be one of the reasons that they do that. That way it's not flexing at different points during contact. So yeah, over the years of him sharpening it, he's put a bit, sorry guys, he's put a bit of a swell, or I guess concave, in the blade. So I'm going to try and get that out and actually make this thing flat again. So now we'll move. And then go to the tip. So this doesn't look like it's a bad knife. It's definitely, I would consider this a commercial grade kitchen knife. In that, I mean, I believe it would actually be used in like a restaurant kitchen or something to that nature. It seems pretty durable, and the handle is definitely a high end plastic or polymer. Why I say that is because it's not really being seen all the time. So they do want something that's going to be firm and going to last a while. I'm here for the knowledge. Chop, 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 chop up a salad. Okay. So with that heavy grit, what we're trying to do is just trying to get the nicks out of the blade. So once you do have a edge geometry that you want, then we start going up in grit. So I'll show this to you guys if you guys can see it. I don't know. So see that down through there? We're trying to get a symmetrical grind line down through there. And then this side, of course, I don't know if you guys can really see how abused that other side is. And both sides were like that. And that's what happens when you sharpen it on something that's not designed to sharpen knives. But we are getting there. So this, I'm just using a little bit of just water, no big deal. I believe we're getting somewhere now. So this is a RH Forstner, let's see. I'm pretty sure this is, yeah, it's definitely a stainless steel because obviously the blade's shiny and it's probably been through a dishwasher a time or two. So we got a pretty good hunk out of the back side of this blade. I believe it, Brookshire. I absolutely believe it. So we got a little nick back here. You guys might be able to see it. I'm gonna try and get that the rest of the way out. I believe it's doable. We're getting somewhere. Here's a little hatchet I got done with a while back. I was going to finish out the head a little bit more, but it's kind of curious because the head is stamped JFK with punches, which I'm pretty sure that obviously there's more than one JFK, but I thought the cool thing was that when I looked it up, that John F. Kennedy was the first United States president that was a Boy Scout. So I didn't really get into messing with it too much. I guess that's one thing that the Antique Roadshow could tell me if they ever came around. So if I'm cleaning up an edge, I've got whetstones. This block I use is primarily just for cleaning up chips and stuff like that. It's a cheap stone or cheap diamond block or whatever you want to call it. It's not bad. I've kind of wore it down so it says 200 grit, so that one's probably like 300 grit. And the side that says 600 grit, it's probably 1,000 plus because there's really not much anything left on it. But most of the things that I do, so with this too, when you're sharpening, you want to look for a little burr. You want to start creating a burr on the other side of the side you're sharpening on. So back here, this is obviously the side I've been working on. So I can start to feel that burr. So as I work down that blade, that burr should start going over. And so through every level of sharpening, you'll peel the old burr off and create a finer burr until it gets to the point you want it. Let's see. Biden was a Girl Scout. I'm going back to watching UFOs documentary. That's what's up. So usually doing this, I'm not really worried so much about like cleaning the blade off as I am just looking at the edge. So when you do that, you're creating like a little particulate powder that you're actually using as a grinding hone. So when you got a decent steel and you get your edge geometry the way you want it, you really don't have to spend a lot of time on each of the levels, because going through this, it shouldn't take more than a few strokes to get where you want, after you've got the nicks and everything taken out of it. So all we're doing with each level of the grit is taking out grinding marks of the last grit. So I don't know if you guys can hear this or not, but you can hear the difference from the start of a heavier grit. When you drop down grit by grit, you can actually start to hear the difference. So what are you guys up to? If you guys got any questions, feel free to ask. So we still do have a little dip in the blade. It's definitely not as promising or as pronounced as it was. But I really don't want to take any more off of the heel of this thing, because the more you take off the heel, the closer your hand drops into your cutting board or into your work. So that'll be fine. It's not ideal. Obviously, it's something you definitely don't want to do with a new knife. But a lot of the old timers did that with pocket knives because they didn't want to run the hone all the way up to the handle and potentially bump or scratch the handle, when in return they were just pretty much kind of destroying the blade. What's up, Robbie? Sharpening one of Unc's kitchen knives here that he's used whatever to sharpen it, and it hasn't been good on it. So now we're starting to get somewhere. We're getting there, fellas. What's up, guys? If you guys got any questions, please feel free to ask away. Feel free to ask away. So, for the new guys, this is a kitchen knife of a buddy of mine's, and he'd been sharpening it improperly and absolutely devastated the edge on it. Seems hard to maintain a consistent edge angle. I've been doing sharpening knives like this for a while, and it does take a little bit to learn how to keep a consistent edge geometry on it. So, if you guys, let's see, if you guys can see that. So it's pretty equal down the edge. So yeah, when people ask you to sharpen their knives, if you go to a gun show or wherever, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll sharpen your knife." Nope. Take it to somebody you know and trust. I do sharpen knives for people when I have the time. Okay, next grit. What's up, Jimmy? I've got, if you're still on here, I got some chef's knives that are getting ready to be handled or sanded and handled, and then they will be ready to roll. Then I also have this feller, little camp style knife, could easy see hunting pack or whatever. So yeah, when this edge is done, what's up, John Drew? Sharpening one of Unc's knives for him. This thing been mistreated out there in the kitchen, so I'm gonna get it hooked back up for him. So yeah, when this stainless, when I get it done, it'll be, the cutting edge on it will be pretty mirrored. So anybody that is watching, if you are interested in one of these kitchen knives, when it's done, you can shoot me a DM. I know one is spoken for, maybe two, but we can go from there. so I'm pretty sure I have one of those open. This one is already spoken for when it's done. What kind of handles are you putting on those blades? Good question. I've got some handle material laying around here somewhere. I don't know what I've done with it. It'll be some of them will be a dyed and spalted maple. Some of them will be a maple burl, dyed and stabilized. They'll all be wood. I like the wood handles. What kind of rock you use when sharpening your knives? This is just a cheap diamond hone, 4-sided. And you can pick these up just about anywhere. I think this one came off Amazon. A buddy of mine gave it to me because he didn't know how to use it, and he got mad. He's like, "Oh, you can have it." And I think this one was like $12, but I get basic edge geometry that I want with this, and I work it up to probably, this goes up to quote unquote 600, but I've used it so much I've wore off the grit on it, so it's kind of a real fine honing at this point. And then I've got 2 old school whetstones that I'll use, and then a strop after that. So right now, you could strop this thing, and it'd probably be pretty daggum sharp. See if it will shave the animal on your face. Oh, what's up? What's up, Robert? So, yeah, we're working down, and that burr gets finer and finer and finer as you go. So I've got this is a straight razor hone. I usually use that on the final sharpening. So this is another whetstone. These things are, you can find them. I've found out that I like some of the older stuff a lot better, but it's hard to find an older one still in a good enough shape to use, because a lot of them have a big swell in the belly of them, which isn't ideal. So this stone actually has like residue and grit and everything left over from the last time I sharpened it. And I really don't like cleaning them off, just because it kind of makes a compound for a little bit better edge. Do you ever use like a rough porcelain sharpener? That's what I like to use. I personally don't like porcelain sharpeners. If they are improperly used, which most time they are, I'm not saying that you're using yours improperly, but if you do get wrong angles and stuff like that, and I think that's the reason for this, that a guy had a piece of porcelain that they had at work, and he'd been using it to sharpen it, and they're so tough and so hard. Improperly, they'll actually peel metal off of this, even though it's stainless, and stainless is pretty tough. That porcelain and carbide sharpeners, I'm not a fan of at all. That's just my personal preference. I'm not telling anybody what to use. I'm just telling them what I use. So, and another reason I didn't want to take, so this is the heel of the knife, and if you, like I said earlier, there's a little bit of a concave line to this knife because the way it had been sharpened before, it wasn't sharpened all the way to the heel. But if I was to get that back flat, I'd be taking this heel down. So when you put it on a surface and you take that heel down, your hand gets closer to your work surface and possibly you could bust your knuckles or whatever. So I got a little bit of it out. It really wasn't bad, so I'm not really too awful worried about it. So the reason I'm spinning it around is so I can get into the heel of the knife, because if I lay it down flat like this, it's just kind of running into the handle materials, running into the whetstone. Thanks for advice, no problem. So yeah, as we get up in finer grits, we're starting to create a bit of a mirrored polish on this edge. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that's pretty much just getting everything nice and orderly. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the different types of sharpeners that are out there. I made myself a couple of years ago kind of sit down and learn how to sharpen one by hand, and it did take a little bit. Especially, it's weird knowing where you're at, whether it's here or just here, on that stone. It almost becomes second nature after a while. So, and this is also another razor stone. I'm going to try and use this one if I can get it up out of the kind of sheath enough. Put a little water on it. And it's weird because if you're working with a clean stone, you can actually see the burrs falling off in the water as you're sharpening it. So that's kind of a good testament of you know where you're at. And most time people think their knives are dull, which they are. But the deal with that is if you haven't really abused the knife, you can pretty much just throw it on a good strop, a good piece of leather, or go to a knife store or wherever, grab one online, just grab you a good strop, and you can fix most of your edge with just a simple stropping if you're using your knife just on everyday stuff. Because what it is, on a microscopic level, the edge of your knife has burrs. So when it's dull but you can't really see any nicks in it, or it's not really flat, what it is those burrs have came out of alignment and they start rolling over. So it doesn't really want to touch. But with a strop, what you're doing is you're realigning all of those little burrs. It almost looks like saw teeth. You can't see it by the naked eye, of course, but with fancy equipment and stuff, they've been able to acknowledge that, and that's why strops work so well, because all it is realigning those little bitty burrs. Yeah, so we are getting there. Yeah, I was going to show you guys the metal shavings on this razor hone, but I believe they're so small that I don't know if you guys could actually, you know, the camera, especially doing it live through Facebook, if it would actually pick anything up or not. Yeah. That's a nice pig poker, yeah. Yeah, so right now this thing's probably fairly sharp. So, you know, well, there's plastic in there. Let's see. Start off the back side of this thing. And this really isn't the greatest. I mean, you know, this is old trick that a lot of people do. But, I mean, you can see that the thing's pretty daggum sharp. So what I'll do now is throw it on the strop, and we'll go from there. So I've made a mess of my floor. I'll pick those up, and now we'll break out the strop. I lose my strop more than anything in my work area. I swear to you. And I just had it earlier. Oh, there it is. It's in the floor. So this thing will go right here. And I do have a little bit of rouge on this strop. Nothing crazy. But so with this, just realigning all of those little bitty burrs. Yeah, there's no way when I started that this would have helped whatsoever because the edge was so jagged. Yeah, this thing's pretty daggum sharp now. Pretty daggum sharp. So this, I kind of like do like roughly manually kind of 50 strokes in each direction. And you got to watch doing this with, especially if you have something that's really pointy. I didn't make this, it's sharp to the edge, but it doesn't necessarily have a point on it because it doesn't need a point. It just needs to be sharp in a downward action. Yeah, she's a doll. So yep. I'll wash it before I give it back to him, but things shaved me right up. And there you go. I mean, that thing's pretty well done. We'll do some more paper cutting because people like that for whatever reason. There she is. She is A-OK. And she's ready to go. So let's see. Yeah, man, I love watching these videos. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, so I've made, once again, made another mess of my floor. But yeah, he's been a longtime friend of mine. And that's the least I can do to straighten up one of his knives for him. But I will let you guys be, and I may make another video tonight. I'm not really for sure, but thanks for everybody that has stayed in tune for the sharpening of this old kitchen knife. All right, bye guys.